Well, hi, this is Jefferson Calico again, comparative religion instructor. I wanted to make a few comments on Buddhism and the idea of non-harm, the ethical principle of non-harm. There were some good discussions about this on the blog, so I wanted to talk a little bit about it. Some of you wrote that this isn't maybe a good way to live, but it's not necessarily a practical way to live. Okay. I would say this. First, Buddhists aren't all that concerned whether it's practical. The issue is that we have a duty to live this way, because all beings are potentially Buddhas, right? They have the Buddha nature within themselves. So we have this duty to acknowledge that and to then treat all beings with respect. It's a way of honoring the Buddha nature in all things. So it doesn't matter whether it's practical, right? This is our religious duty. But I think that they would also say that it is a practical thing, and I want to point a few of those reasons out. First, there's this individual aspect to the principle of non-harm, which says that by doing violence and harm, we negatively impact our own karma, right? We take on bad karma. And then this bad karma will have to be worked off through more and more rebirths. That's the individual aspect. There's also a social aspect to this principle, which says that by doing violence and harm, this raises the temperature in a sense. It raises the temperature of the whole room. Causing harm has ripples. It ripples through the web of causation and raises the level of suffering in a way that affects all beings. So, for example, you're having a bad day. You cling to that. You practice attachment, right, to those negative feelings. And so you feel bad. And so you yell at your husband or your wife, and then on the way to work, they're angry, so they get angry. They hold on to all that negativity. They're attached to it and cling to it. So then on the way to work, they, would flip somebody off, and that person gets mad, and they go into a road rage, and they rear in someone else who then has to go to the hospital and wear a neck brace for the rest of their life, or something like that. Or you yell at your own kids because you feel negative and you cling to that. You take that out on your kids. You yell at them, and then they grow up to yell at their kids and make their kids' lives miserable. And so the chain continues and is passed on. Violence and harm is passed around. It's increased. It increases. If you are violent and harmful in the world, then those around you will be more likely also to be violent and harmful back to you. And so this muddies the very water that we drink from, in a sense, by making our context, our environment, that much more negative and violent. So in these ways, it is practical to live by the principle of non-harm. Because if we are non-violent, then this begins to lower the temperature of the room so that all beings are more at peace, and we ourselves and our children experience greater levels of peace and happiness. Now, that said, on the other hand, there are conditions to the non-harm principle. So while Buddhists are definitely moved by compassion, right, for all other beings, remember that these are the same people that came up with things like the ninja and the samurai and all kinds of forms of martial arts that are still practiced today. Nor did Buddhists ever interpret this principle to say that murderers and violent abusers should just get away with their violence. Right? Social order and harmony, remember, are very important to these societies. And that idea of social order and harmony then imposes certain limits on non-harm. So you have to deal with, in maybe a potentially harmful way, with elements of society that promote disharmony. But perhaps most importantly, one very interesting aspect of Buddhist society is that they feel that the moral code applies differently to different people. So this is very different from how we think about morality and ethics. But think about this. Through the process of samsara, people are on different spiritual levels and different moral levels. We saw this idea reflected in the Hindu idea of caste, right? So people are on different spiritual levels in the caste system. And in Buddhist society, this is reflected in the difference between the nirvanic goal and the karmic goal. The nirvanic goal being the pursuit of enlightenment, and the karmic goal being the pursuit of a better rebirth, which this is what most people are on. So Buddhist monks who have given their lives to the Sangha, they must practice non-harm in order to pursue the nirvanic goal of enlightenment. However, Buddhists understand that in order for that small group of monks to practice non-harm, to follow the moral code, to pursue enlightenment, there must be others in the society who do cause harm in order just to protect society and to allow the monks to do their thing. So while some, the elite in a sense, are practicing this stringently, the idea of non-harm, there are others who must do harm in order to create the kind of society where some of the monks can pursue that goal. So this is very different from the way that in the West that we sort of understand that the moral code falls equally on all people. So in Buddhist society, the moral code applies differently to different people. Some are allowed to pursue non-harm because there are others who are willing to protect society and allow them to do that. All right. Again, if you have any questions, just email me. Hope you're enjoying the class so far. Thanks a lot.